Welcome back for another video. My wildcard is active, so there's loads to discuss this week. I'll be running through my team, why I've decided to activate it now, but let's start off with a quick look at how last game it went first. I finished on 69 points, which was another green arrow. Henderson with a parting gift, finally coming good after a 9-pointer despite getting booked. He made 7 saves and he clinched 2 bonus points. Trent also finally coming good with an assist, clean sheet and 2 bonus himself. It was actually a week where loads of players that showed promise finally came good. Rodgers with 2 assists and 3 bonus for a 10-pointer, Smith Rowe scored, Conser with a goal, though in my case I unfortunately started dunk over him. Forrest got a penalty which wiped the clean sheet for Brighton, it did open the game up. Wood becomes an increasingly good pick given now he's definitely on penalties now. So I made the decision to wildcard Saturday night as I had 2 free transfers, which wasn't enough to tackle the fixture swings. No Bumo, only 1 Arsenal player, João Pedro concerns. I still had Quansah, and it was about a 0.7 mil swing in team value by activating it. Plus the fact we are able to roll transfers over as well now. Like, had this been any previous season, I would have been more inclined to spend the 2 transfers, or maybe 3 for a -4, but the timing just felt right. Of course, if all goes smoothly in the coming weeks and I can roll more, then getting up to 3, 4, maybe even 5 free transfers sets me up for another mini wildcard if I need it. Let's have a look at some of your highs and lows of Gameweek 5 before we get into the wildcard team as always. FPL whatever. Punting like a champ, he says he captained Luis Diaz for a 32-pointer. Now in a week where Haaland scored 1 and Salah just got the assist, that's a huge swing. Fair play. Dewey got unlucky with his bench. He had Rodgers' 10-pointer there and Conser's 9-pointer on the bench. Still managed 61 points, which isn't too bad, just over the average. Metarm said, took a bit of a risky move with the Diaz captaincy, but it paid off. He finished on 91 points and he got a Gameweek rank of 61k. FPL Moneyball says they sold Luis Diaz for Jota for a -4 after he missed a sitter in Gameweek 1. That is brutal, given how they looked really comparable before Gameweek 1, but now after 5 Gameweeks, 33 points separates them. And lastly, Tom, who got a ridiculous 93-pointer. He captained Luis Diaz, and he also had Rodgers, Watkins, Muniz, Haaland, Smith Rowe, Trent and Henderson all returning. Fair play. So, onto the wildcard then, and we'll start off in goal. Henderson is gone, and in comes Raya. A mistake not to start the season with him in hindsight. He's on 33 points now, 16 ahead of Henderson, and he's a top scoring keeper with a run of Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth. A couple of tougher fixtures after that, but he's going to be a set and forget starter in the team. There were mild rumours of an injury after the City game. He was seen leaving the game limping, but he had a plaster on his knee, so I don't think it's a serious one. I'm expecting him to get the League Cup off potentially though. Although data is very useful, context is also very important in FPL. Arsenal are 9th for expected goals conceded this season, but they've been a man down twice, including against Man City for 45 minutes. Still the best defence in the league in my eyes, which is clear when you watch them. My defence is Gabriel, Lewis and Trent. So I've doubled up on the Arsenal defence with Gabriel, who looks the best of the Arsenal defenders in my opinion. Saliba's great, but Gabriel's the one they're aiming the set pieces at. He's a ridiculous goal threat, as we've seen countless times, including 2 corner goals in the last 2 games. I do recall last season, Arsenal home to Sheffield United in a pretty congested period, and Gabriel got an unexpected rest there in that easier fixture. It's a slight concern for the upcoming 2 games, but that's about the only case you can really make for Saliba over Gabriel, but I'll take the upside Gabriel offers. Lewis comes into the team with Man City having the early kickoff. Whatever your views on leaks are, I mean they're too powerful to ignore, and there's a strong chance that we know whether he starts in Gameweek 6, 7, 10 and 11. Besides all that, in isolation he's 4.7 mil and he's playing amazing this season, including the League Cup midweek getting an assist as Man City knocked Watford out. The Rodri injury has potentially increased his stocks. His expected minutes may have gone up slightly, though obviously without Rodri they're going to concede more. We could see Kovacic in defensive mid a lot now, with Lewis starting and inverting next to him. I'd be reluctant to buy Lewis if we don't have a defence that can cover him if Pep doesn't use him, but of course on a wildcard you can plan accordingly. I would rather have Vardy if I was able to afford him, but it's a 1.3 mil difference, and I can't afford him without sacrifices elsewhere, which I'll touch on in the midfield next. And lastly, Trent. If you caught the transfer plans video, I had a Palmer wildcard draft and a Palmerless wildcard draft. Going without Palmer allows me to have Trent and some other upgrades elsewhere, and it feels a bit more well-rounded. My team value is not as high as some of you though, and I can see a Saka Palmer Haaland draft working well in many cases. After Salah and Luis Diaz, Trent is 3rd for expected goal involvement among the Liverpool players. They're facing a Wolves side who are going to be without Mascara long term as well now. Wildcards can generally have some risk in terms of who you're selling, and I have dropped Salah, which does have potential to backfire this week. This game week, Liverpool are 2nd on the clean sheet odds, given a 42% chance. Arsenal top with 56%, Man City joint 3rd, so I've got the top 3 in my defence this week. Onto the midfield, which is Semenyo, Saka, Buma and Maddison. Semenyo feels like an opportunity too good to pass up on at that price and those fixtures, playing home to Southampton before Leicester away, and then it is 3 tougher games which I'll bench him for, before potentially starting him again if he's still in the team. There is obviously also that potential for him to blank or get like 1 assist in the next 2, and then he suddenly looks like a big problem, with Arsenal, Villa and Newcastle after that. He's passed the eye test whenever I've watched him this season, and the underlying numbers back it up as well. 3.11 expected goal involvement, which is higher than Bumo, Saka, Eze and Son, to name a few players. 24 shots taken this season can only be beaten by Haaland among all players. Bumo I expect is going to be one of the first names in wildcard teams, and if yours isn't active then he's a priority move this week, especially if you've got someone like Jota that you can switch to him. He's on penalties, he's on set pieces, corners, and Brentford have got great long term fixtures, so he's someone you can chuck in your team you don't have to worry about for ages. He's got 4 goals in 5 games so far this season. Let's talk about the Maddison pick then. I've not seen him in many teams and he's only 4.5% owned. He's a bit of a form and a fixtures play really. He got 1 goal 1 assist against Brentford last match, which puts him on 4 returns in 5 games. Long term, he's great to start for the next 6 straight weeks potentially. Man United, Brighton, West Ham, Palace, Villa and Ipswich. And if we pull up that data table again, he's second only to Haaland for expected goal involvement in the entire league after 5 game weeks. 1.43 expected goals, 2.86 expected assists. I think it's easy to forget his form at the start of last season before the injury. He had 62 points from the opening 10 game weeks before he got injured, 6.2 points per game. Salah, Haaland, Son, Watkins, Bumo and Saka were the only ones that had more points than. I've actually got 0.5 mil on the bank with this draft. I could get Eze instead, but I could also have Luis Diaz. I don't expect it's going to be a popular choice choosing Maddison over Luis Diaz, given he is the top scorer mid. I just wonder long term if or when he gets benched. I mean, in Game Week 4, Slot said himself that he wanted to start Gakpo, but he was heavily involved over the international break, and he said Diaz had better fitness at the time after the break. I said at the start of this season as well, I'm consciously trying to pick players that are better for minutes. Last season I would have picked Diaz 100%, but this season Maddison's got the assured starts. It's never a bad thing, I think, to try stuff out in FPL. You either learn the hard way and you go back to what worked, or you find out it works and you potentially become an even better FPL manager. I've not ruled out Eze either, as he does allow me to afford Vardy, but it's Maddison for now. I'd be interested to hear how you rank Maddison, Eze and Luis Diaz on a wildcard, or maybe someone else that I'm overlooking. The last thing to mention is that I really like Ange's attack first style of playing. From the FPL perspective, certainly it benefits the midfielders and forwards, not so much the likes of Pedro Porro. Saka was taken off at half time against City, but I expect it was tactical more than anything after they went a man down. Martinelli was getting more joy against Walker than Saka was against Vardy. I did look at an Arsenal triple up consisting of Havertz, Saka and Gabriel, but I landed on Saka and double defence instead. Saka's still yet to blank this season. Haaland and Saka are the only 2 players that have returned in all 5 games. So let's move on to the attack, which is Calvert-Lewin, Solanke and Haaland. I'm finding Wood versus Calvert-Lewin to be very close. They've both got great fixtures. Everton's are slightly better, both are on penalties, both about the same price as well. Wood's got the better injury record. I've put my neck on the line here and I have said that I think Everton can turn it around. I mean, they've got Branthwaite, Mikalenko, Patterson and Gueye all back in full first team training and the fixtures are turning. Which one do you prefer, Calvert-Lewin or Wood? I was fortunate enough not to have gotten lucky owning Solanke from Game Week 1, and I think that might be dissuading some from going there, especially those that had him early already. I was really impressed by him against Brentford. He could have come away with more than the 1 goal. Only Maddison had a higher expected goal involvement in Game Week 5 than Solanke's 1.68 XGI. He took 4 shots, all of them in the box, all of them big chances. Is it a mistake going Solanke over Jackson though? Jackson's the man in form right now and he's got 2 great fixtures. There is that option to get him and then switch to Solanke with a booked in transfer. Chelsea have got Brighton home, Forest home, but then it's Liverpool, Newcastle and Man United. And lastly Haaland obviously, needs no justification. I do think that Salah and Saka are strong alternatives for captaincy if you've got them, but Newcastle haven't looked great at the back so far, so he gets the captain armband. I'd love to see Foden starting to string a few games together, as he could come in later for Maddison, or maybe a temporary Saka sell when he's got Liverpool and Newcastle and then Saka back in. The bench is Valdemarson, Rodgers, Mikalenko and Greaves. I'm not 100% settled on the bench, as I've got 0.5 mil on the bank and that could be used to upgrade Greaves to someone with better depth. Duncan Collins are the 2 names I've been looking at. They've got Wolves home and Ipswich home respectively in Game Week 9 as well, which is when Gabriel and Trent face one another. Now hypothetically, if we hear that Lewis doesn't start against Newcastle, I'd have a choice between starting Mikalenko against Palace or spending that 0.5 mil to upgrade Greaves to someone who looks stronger to use. The 2 names I'm considering in that scenario are Colwill and Collins. Colwill's home to Brighton, Collins home to West Ham. I think I'd still keep Lewis either way. Benching Rodgers away at Ipswich isn't ideal either. I think I'm going to have to get comfortable with benching some returns here and there, which is the price to pay for good bench depth. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching. Good luck if your wildcard's active as well, and see you soon for the next one.